myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Wednesday night, which means it's retro night. So I'm joined by Steve Hasty, George Mitchell, Neil Mitchell, Stu Penman and Steve Wilkinson to look back at games gone by. And we always get the people in the chat to pick the team. And this week we've been given a games against Birmingham. Wow, it doesn't get any easier, lads. Tough games coming thick and fast. But Birmingham City it is. As always, we'll be looking past games gone by. I'll also be selecting a few famous fans of Birmingham to see whether the lads can guess. We'll also be going through some players that played for both teams. And, if I remember, we'll also ask the lads to do a team. I apologise, lads. Cut you off in your prime last week. All my fault, and I'll make sure I don't make the same mistake again this week. Before we start, though, I just want to say congratulations to Rachel on a promotion at Tesco's. Stu, you gave us the good news, didn't you? And she's somebody essentially who I've asked to come on Ladies' Night. Maybe she'll come on Ladies' Night now. This has got a bit of responsibility in her job.
Yeah, she works for my brother, and last time he asked her to go on Ladies' Night, she said she didn't have confidence. But now she's a manager, she should have loads of confidence. So
she can run the show.
I know, she's on Twitter as Geordie Girl 1428, I think. So
she watches every show. She's one of our biggest fans,
show, yeah.
And we appreciate all the support we get. But it's nice to hear that people love all the shows. So Rachel, congratulations. We'll have a drink. We'll have a drink for you, and just have a think about it. It'll be nice to get you on Ladies' Night one week. Maybe you'll have to keep one of them drinks to Monday for a bit of Dutch courage, but it'll be nice to get you on. Anyway, on to Birmingham City. Steve Hasty, you're in the driving seat tonight, mate, which is nice because usually you join last and you're down where Steve Wilkinson is. Now, that's the dreaded seat because you're thinking, oh God, I hope he hasn't picked the game that I've got. Well, you've got to do that 3 or 4 times before you get to Steve's position.
So I can't actually go what I've written down, which was following on from Steve Wilkinson.
Go on then, Steve. You had jet black hair when we started this show. It's the stress.
But game I've picked, the first game that I've gone for, and I know Steve is going to talk about the Texaco Cup, but I've picked the Texaco Cup game from 74-75. The reason I picked it is I've got the programme. I found the programme in the cupboard earlier in the week. And
have I actually. Sorry to cut you off on your prime. There you go. There's the programme.
I mean, there's not much in it, Steve, I must admit, is there? There's not much out when you read it, you know. It gives you a little bit of success story. One of the interesting things that I found in it was when you look at these programmes and things like that is where clubs are in the league, and a little bit of write up about some of the players. But I think this particular one, First Division league table after 14 games, bottom of the league, Arsenal, top of the league, Liverpool. Things do change, I suppose. But no, getting back to the game, the reason I picked it is it's a strange competition, the Texaco Cup, because most of the games were played in the pre-season. They were played not as pre-season friendlies, but they were played before the season kicked off, and it was like a round-robin sort of competition. And for this particular year, 74-75, we played group games against Sunderland, Carlisle and Borough. And we scraped through basically into the next round, which is when the Texaco Cup, which eventually became the Anglo-Scottish Cup, we played Aberdeen. So we got past Aberdeen, and then we found ourselves against the mighty Birmingham City. Now, as I say, I've got the programme. It was the most dire, boring game that I can remember. It was a 1-1 draw. There was nothing much to say about the game. But in terms of, I thought, we could tell people what the Texaco Cup was about. As I say, it was restyled as the Anglo-Italian in 75-76. The Anglo-Scottish Cup. But there were 16 English teams played in it. In group stages, and then they brought the Scots in, at which point the Scots usually got knocked out. So then it ended up in a semi-final and final with English clubs anyway, And we won it the previous year, but I think we won it this season when it went into a group final and we beat Southampton. But in terms of Birmingham, it's you look at the team lineup, and there's a couple of players that I remember from this, and two players in particular a few actually that stand out. Kenny Burns. We all remember Kenny Burns as being a real hard man. By this period of his career, he was a midfielder. He was a battling midfielder who then went on to in home games would play up front. Defenders in away games, the manager used to play him as a midfielder, but he played up front, and he ended up winning the European Cup with Nottingham Forest under Cloughy. But Trevor Francis was the player that excited me out of this lineup, along with Howard Kendall, by the way, who had gone to Birmingham by this point. But Trevor Francis, he had come into Birmingham and made his debut as a 16-year-old, and by this point, I think he just got his first England cap. Now, Trevor, for the younger sort of listeners or viewers, he ended up being the first £1 million footballer. Although Cloughy did claim that he only cost £999,999 because he didn't want the £1 million tag going to his head, which I think is an excellent Cloughyism, isn't it? You know, and anyone who can remember when Cloughy signed him, Cloughy was all dressed up in his squash gear, and he didn't want to do the press conference. He wanted to rush out and play squash. And I think the first £1 million player ever. And Cloughy went like, yeah, we've signed him. Right, I'm off to play squash. And that was the way that he treated it, you know. But that was the way football was in those days. But this team, this Birmingham team, they weren't a bad team. They had some decent players in them. But they had just got rid of Bob Latchford to Everton. And I think, that was a big move, £350,000, you know. So there were always that sort of transitional club, a strange club. And when you look back, I think from 86, and this is why we've struggled, from 86 to 2002, they were just nowhere. You know, you just cannot find. We never played them. You know, we yo-yoed around divisions, but they were nowhere near us until 2002. So it has been difficult, but that's my first one. I remember the game, a cold game, and for anyone who also remembers the old programme days, as I flicked through, I suddenly found that there was a bit of a gap in the programme there. You can just see it. That was because that's where you cut out your voucher for your FA Cup ticket. So if you went on a cup run, remember what they were, Steve, lads?
Yeah.
Yeah. Start the season, you got a little sheet of paper that you had to stick the vouchers in for every programme, every home game. And then when it got to the cup, then that decided first or second in the queue to get a cup ticket. So you went there with your little voucher, they're all cut out. So there was mine all cut out in desperate hope that we were going to reach another FA Cup final after the 74 Cup final the year before. So that was my first game, Birmingham 1-1. We did go on and win the next leg and get into the final.
Good stuff. Evening, George. What's your first Birmingham City recollection?
Well, my first one I'm keeping for my second game. So this one's a memory from 76. Simply because it was a good game. It's as straightforward as that. We beat them 4-0. It was a Wednesday night. Only 18,500 in the ground. But there was all sorts of other things happening. Some good things, some sad things. For example, I've got Kenny Burns down in this one as well, because in this one he was playing right back. He wasn't really. He was drifting into the centre of defence to combat Malcolm MacDonald. And he wasted his time because every time he got near Malcolm sat him on his backside. Malcolm was just too strong for him. And but it was a good game. We won 4-0, and Supermax scored 2. Gowland scored a nice header, and Mickey Burns scored a nice goal as well. The team's interesting as well. Mick Mahoney in goal. Now Irvin Natris, another young fullback who looked like he was going to play for England, and got knackered with a knee injury. Isn't it funny how we keep finding these star young players who get their knees knackered and never come back again? I mean, he did come back, but he was never the same player again from once he was injured. Alan Kennedy and Graham Oates, Bird, Hudson, Barraclough, Gowland, MacDonald, Burns and Cassidy. Now also, it's a memorable game because in the Birmingham team, they had Peter Wyth, Terry Hibbett, and still had Howard Kendall kicking around. But that's the sad bit, because it just after half time, Howard Kendall went off because you could see he just couldn't keep up with the pace. You could see he could see Howard was finished at that time. And in fact, I think he just played a few games too many because he was a superb player. And it was a shame to see, at least I always think it's sad to see a player who just goes too far. And you can see he's not with it. You know, he's just not in the game. And they took him off just after half time, which I found quite sad. But it was a good game. 1-0 just before half time, and then 3 goals in the second half. Super Mac was outstanding, as I've already said. But there was another personal thing in it for me. You've heard me talk about George Dalton on here several times, who I played with Northumberland boys for. Went into the first team at Newcastle, injured his knee, never recovered from it, ended up at Brighton and injured that same knee. And, of course, he was finished as a player. Well, Brighton gave him a job as a physiotherapist to let him get his coaching badges. Well, the Brighton manager was Freddie Goodwin, the ex-Manchester United player. And Birmingham took Goodwin as manager and took Dalton and took a lad called Bell from Brighton. And I think I'm right in saying it was the first time that a first division club, a Premiership club, actually did sue another club for breach of contract. Well, they got a stack of money for Goodwin, but they couldn't get anything for George Dalton because when he'd injured his knee, they had given him a free transfer and they'd forgot about that. And of course, when it went to court, they just threw it out and said, well, he's still on a free transfer, so you're wasting your time. And they got some money for the lad Bell, who eventually became assistant at Birmingham. Well, George was assistant physio at Birmingham for a little while. And then in this year, 76, he went to Coventry as physio and stayed with Coventry for 20-odd years. He was a physio in the cup final and that sort of thing. And I just had a check just to be sure. And he still lives in that area. And he's still alive and kicking just like I am. There's only a couple of months between our ages, but he was a nice lad. And obviously, as you've heard me mention to him before, but that was another link with Birmingham on that particular day. So a good win, some interesting returns for Hibbert and With, and a good display by Supermac and the rest of the team. And for me, the saddest thing was to see Howard kind of going off. So that's my first one, Steve.
Good stuff, as always, George. Mitch, your first memory, mate.
It's strange, you know. Once I started looking back at games between the two teams, I realised I've actually only been to St Andrews once. And I find that weird for the amount of times I've been to Birmingham to watch football. It must have always been Villa, bar this one time, which kind of surprised me. But the only away game I went to was November '92, and it was Keegan's promotion team going down, and it was built up in the run up to the game as a test of character, because we'd had that fantastic start this season, and then we'd lost to Grimsby. And then I think we had a draw, and I think we got knocked out of the League Cup, I think, by Chelsea, was it? And so, of course, the narrative was, they're having a bit of a wobble, and this game would be a test of character, because the Birmingham team had some interesting characters in it. So we went down, and the first half was ridiculous. The first half was like two heavyweight boxers in the centre of the ring, just trading blows. And the first half finished 3-2 to us. With I think it was Peacock got the opener, and then David Speedy, who we mentioned last week, got the equaliser almost within a minute. And then Kevin Scott got a rare goal for him, and then the current Brighton manager Potter equalised for them. And then just before half time, we managed to take the lead with an own goal, one of them pinball around the box type own goals. But I don't know what happened at half time, because they came out second half and Birmingham were like a different team, and we were under total control. And we just saw the game out. It was fantastic to see the confidence come back into a team, and I think it certainly was a test of character. And they passed it, and that again built another platform to go on to increase our lead and look more and more comfortable as we went towards Christmas in that promotion season. I remember it being a fantastic trip and a fantastic game, particularly for that first half and the trade and the blows. And it was one of those games where Keegan says, right, you're going to score 4, we'll score 5. And yeah, we do love a bit of that, really, don't we? And we certainly miss a little bit of that now. So that's my one and only Birmingham trip, or St Andrews trip anyway, which surprised us. Like I say, when I went back through the games and went thinking, well, I wasn't at that one and I wasn't at that one. So I don't know how come my Birmingham experience has become so skewed, but that's it.
Yep. Okay, Stu.
Aye, well, the first one I've had a debate with Heed on which game it was. He reckons it was the 2-0 in 2002, and I know it was the 2-2 draw at St Andrews in 2004. And as same with Mitch, looking back through the teams and things like that on the day, two of our favourite players who have now become pundits, panelists, broadcasters, what you want to call them, played in this game. One was Jermaine Genius, and the other one was Robbie Savage. So both these played in that game, and the managers that day were two of our favourite managers. One was David Sulis. Lord, is that you?
It's me, yes.
It's becoming a regular thing. This is like Malcolm's dog. There we go. I've got him on mute. We can continue.
All right, okay. We should have listened, man, like last week. So the two managers that day were Graham Stewart, everyone's favourite, and then the second favourite is Steve Bruce for Birmingham. But the game, although it finished 2-2, this is backstory that made us remember the game. If you remember last week, I said like, we've got some good stories for Birmingham. At the time, I was living in Tenerife and doing quite well for myself, and I owned some greyhounds that were getting trained by Tony Meek, who was... He twice won the Derby with his greyhounds, and he was running out of Hall Green, which is right in the middle of Birmingham. So it was arranged that I would fly over with my partner at the time and meet Heed and his much better half Claire. And Tony Meek, the trainer, had arranged us to get like director's box tickets. You know, he really pushed the boat out for us. But the night before, we're at the Dogs. And there's 14 races on the card on a Friday night in Hall Green. And we sat us there, he was dead proud because at the time I think I'd shares about 5 different dogs. And he sat us there and we were in the the trainer's circle. So we're getting all the tips. And we won 11 races out of 14. We had about 5 reverse forecasts. And we won about $2,000 each. So we're talking like bang on, well, not just bang on, nearly 20 years ago. So it more than paid for the trip. So after a heavy drink celebrating, we're up getting breakfast and round the streets of Hall Green, and then get to the ground. And we're in the director's bit. Not as plush as what St James's, but anyway, we get put into this big room with set tables and everything. Our names are on the plates and everything. And they had this competition about guess the crowd. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy, isn't it? We go to Newcastle, they always take a good following. So you just look at the average, add a few hundred on, like look at the games of play, and you'd win a signed ball from all the players playing that day. So I won that anyway. But I broke me phone.
Hello.
Are you still there?
I broke my phone, but I can still hear you.
Just broke everything.
God, see you.
That was your luck running out there.
I found you again.
Very good.
Hey.
No, but I broke my right hand. Left hand. Through pugilistic affairs, I suppose we'll call it. So it was it was my right hand for that game, and it was in a cast. And as the game kicked off, the game was just a backside to it. We scored early doors. Juniors actually scored for us. And then after about maybe 5 minutes after that, Emil Heskey was playing for them and he got taken off, injured. And they brought on York, who loved going out in Newcastle. I'm sure you remember, Steve. He used to love his days out in Newcastle, yeah. He's come on, and he ends up scoring from a goal. To this day, I'm telling you, he was a country mile offside. I love VAR to look back at that goal. He was miles offside. So anyway, he's equalised, and we're effing and blinding. And actually, I got a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and this bloke said, bear in mind, we're in the poshest seats St Andrews have to offer. And this bloke says, excuse me, can you mind your language? And I says, I haven't been swearing. He says, I was talking about the ladies. So like my partner at the time and Mrs. Heath were effing and blinding about the game. So when I turned around and looked at this bloke again, I've done a double take, and I think it's Mark Hughes, who was the Wales manager at the time, ex-Man United, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, I suppose. And I was like, no, you have to be quiet. Mark Hughes has just told us off. So we get at half time, you go back in and you get the pint, whatever. And I went to the toilet. So I'm standing in the system, bear in mind my right hand's broke. So it's in a cast and I've got it leaning there, left hand helping myself out. And lo and behold, Mark Hughes is standing next to us. So I've looked at him again. I says, all right, Sparky. And he went, yes. And I didn't realise he's actually quite small. He's only about 5'7", 5'8", and he used to win loads of headers. So you always expect people from the telly to be a lot taller, don't you? And that's right. Yes. So he was trying to make small talk, and he's looked at my wrists, and he says, how do you do that? He looked at the cast. He said, how do you do that? I went, she ducked. And then, bear in mind, he's just told her off 20 minutes earlier for swearing. And he's like, I've got a right couple of pair of ratchets. Yeah. And I'll tell you now, Mark Hughes does not wash his hands when he leaves the toilet. I've never seen him. Straight out the door. So the second half, Upson scored for them, and then Nicky Butt's got the equaliser. I win the football, and we go out again. I end up giving the ball away to some Birmingham supporter in Tenerife. But that was my first story. As soon as we mentioned Birmingham, I thought of that Mark Hughes thing straight away. How he scuttled off, and you only come to watch Gary Speed, Robbie Savage, obviously, in Bellas. And I think either Bellamy either got booked or something. He didn't have a good game anyway. But he was
every time I see him now, of course, I'm going to think, well, Mark Hughes doesn't wash his hands after he goes to the toilet.
No, he doesn't. But he doesn't that day. I can promise you that. He doesn't that day.
Steve, any urinal tales of people in your first story of
that's just me in Birmingham, isn't it? With the toilets, like the wardrobe, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Birmingham's still got the toilets a bit like the Gallagher end. I think, it hasn't developed much that ground, is it?
It hasn't.
That was the posh ones.
I was trying to remember whether I'd been to Birmingham. I know I have, but the most I was thinking it was the game that Mitch talked about, but it cannot have been, because that was a memorable game. All I can remember, there was a big guy that went, and he had a seat that was twice the size of anything else in one of their fans. I don't know if you remember that, but he was a colossal guy. He must have been eating lots of Greg's pies or something like that. But I can't remember the game I played.
Oh, we've lost him.
Gremlin's on this evening, like.
He's got on pause.
Yeah. Anyway,
you went on pause there, Steve.
I went on pause. All right. Did you not hear any of that rubbish?
No, we never heard any of it. So recap.
Okay. I was saying I have been to Birmingham, but I couldn't remember what game I'd been. And I said the memorable thing was a big seat. Some guy who was a bit larger guy than many of us who sucked the beer must have needed an extra large seat. And that's the most thing I can remember. And so I can't remember the game, so it can't have been a memorable one. So I think, as Steve mentioned earlier on, our Dabs the most significant Texaco Cup game. Well, when I say significant, it was the year when we played them 73-74. The game had a strange twist in it for a reason that it was actually abandoned. It was during the miners' strike, and games the first game had to kick off at 2:00, and after the full game finished, it was ones each draw. And instead of having the penalty shootout, which would have been the logical thing to do,
no, he's gone again. Must have dodgy internet connection tonight. Yeah, you're back again. You're back again.
I'm back again. So have you heard any of what I've said?
Yeah, we've got.
They've got the abandoned game.
We've got the abandoned game. That's where we got to.
So it got to extra time, and they decided to start extra time. There were no floodlights on, so it's about 4:00 by this time. and it was getting pitch black. And I was on the popular side. There was only 5,000 there because it was a 2:00 kickoff, and you couldn't see the ball. It was ridiculous. And after 10 minutes of extra time, with the score still 1 each, the referee abandoned the match. And obviously, abandoned match, you've got to play it again at the ground where it was at. So a week later, we played them again. Now, it was a strange situation that over a period of just over a month, we played Birmingham 5 times. We played them in the Texaco Cup away leg first, which was a 1 each draw at the end of October. And a week later, we played them in the League Cup. Birmingham won that one. In fact, the only game we won out of the 5 against Birmingham was this game coming up, which was the replay of the abandoned game. We'd played in fact, that first League Cup was a draw, and then we lost the replay on that one. So this second leg came, and I think they played at night. I don't know if...
And again?
Well, at least he hasn't dropped the food. I can't
Well, he hasn't dropped it. He's just going on pause. Exactly. Right. So they were playing at night, Steve. We got to there.
So he got to the night time. I think it was night time anyway.
It'll be night time by the time you finish the story if it carries on like this.
These earlier games had been a bit tasty and it got a bit rough, and there was a bit of needle between. So the game kicked off, and in the first minute, Jimmy Smith was sent off for a tackle on Tony One, a bad tackle down in the. I think it was down in the sort of Gallagher end paddock on the main stand, and Jimmy Smith was sent off. So we played almost the whole game with just 10 men. But once
no way.
Hold that thought. Once the.
I just don't think he's picked a team. That's why he's delaying it.
All right. Okay. Back again, Steve.
I don't know what's happening here. So have we got Jimmy Smith sent off? You've heard that?
Yes, yeah. Jimmy Smith sent off.
Second time. You can edit this all out, Steve, at the end to make it smooth when it goes on YouTube.
No, it's going to end up on the Dennis Norton show.
Oh, niche.
Gone again. Gone again, Steve.
He's gone again.
It'll be all right on the night.
You know what, Steve? You're looking at the program here. Steve mentioned there that had played a few times. It says in the match program, it's reporting on last season. He says after 7 meetings, some of them more none too gentlemanly. That's 1974 for you.
Not too gentlemanly
games. So Steve, Jingy Smith got sent off. I think when you eventually finish the story, maybe go out and come back in might be the best policy, because it's obviously like an issue. Sometimes that clears it up. But Jingy Smith got sent off. What happened after that?
Well, we scored 3 goals in the first half, one of which was by Frank Clark, a prolific left back who played about 400 odd games, and he only scored 2 goals for us over the whole 10 years plus that he played for us. He scored the second goal. They were all decent goals, all coming from the left side, and Frankie Clark particularly was a 25-yard shot.
Max is off again.
Yeah. Max Headroom. Max Headroom. So Jingy Smith scored a 25-yarder, Steve. You went on pause again there. Frankie Clark, right, okay.
We won 3-0 and went through to the next round, which was that was the semi-final, and we played it was the second round. We played Dundee in the next round, which also had a bit of a story, but that's since we're going on. Supermac came on near the end, and we got a late winner was the thing. He'd been injured, missed that game against Birmingham. So eventually we've got there. We beat Birmingham 3-1 in the Texaco Cup, which, as Mitch says, was a sort of upmarket pizza trophy for the First Division Premier League teams. I think the reason why the method changed in the year that Steve talked about, playing like the Sunderland and that, I think Irish teams were originally in it, and I think because of the troubles going on, Irish teams were left out by this time. So it went. I think we played Morton in the first round, and then this was a second round game against Birmingham, and then we played Dundee in the semi-final, and also went on to win it, playing Burnley.
Okay, good stuff, mate. If you want to go out and come back in, that would be great. I'm going to take him out as well, just to help him on his way, and hopefully he'll be able to get his microphone sorted. Back to you then, Steve.
Yeah, wow. Dear me. My next game that I picked was fairly recent. The reason I picked it, it's 2016-17, the FA Cup third round replay. Well, the FA Cup third round game, the first one was a dire 1-1 draw, and I picked there's a couple of reasons why I picked this game. One was because that was the season that we were doing the We Are the Geordies film, so it was very much a sort of, concentrate on everything that was going. We'd had this little bit of a bad spell at Christmas there. We'd got beat up Sheffield Wednesday, but went into the cup match, and Rafa picked what was supposed to be a fairly strong team. And he had people like Mitrovic playing. He had people like Murphy up front alongside him, that type of thing. And, I think Rafa picked the team thinking that, we'll cruise through this. We shouldn't have any problems. But we played in front of about 5,000 down at Birmingham, and it was a shocking game. So when it came to the next leg, I think Rafa suddenly thought to himself, you know what, we're putting a lot of stuff in jeopardy here, because let's face it, we all know how political he could be. But he put a really, really strange team out. We ended up winning 3-1, and I looked at the team, and he had Sells, he had Hanley, Lazar, Ritchie. He brought Shelvey back in, and Shelvey had been banned for 5 games for racist slurs that had been reported by a Wolves player. So he had been out for 5 games. He brought him in. He made him captain. He had Gouffran, he had Yedlin, he had Tiote, and then he played Barlasser, Yassin Al-Nini, and Finley. And you're looking at it, and of course, went into a 2-0 lead. Then they came back at it and got a bit jittery. And then, if I remember rightly, Ritchie scored a tap in just towards the end to make it 3-1. It was on about the 90th minute, but scored with a penalty early on. But I looked at that, and there's a couple of reasons. As I say, one of them was the fact that we were there, and it was because of the We Are the Geordies film, and everybody can see how the season span on. The little bit about Rafa, but when I looked at the squad that we had, the players that he left out, Darlow, Clark, Dummett, Lascelles, Ritchie, Shelvey wasn't playing in the first one, playing the second. Sorry, what I'm getting at is these are players that were available that are still there. So Darlow, Clark, Dummett, Lascelles, Ritchie, Shelvey, Hayden, Atsu, Gale, Savvy, Woodman. Savvy is still there but not playing. Woodman, we've still got him on loan. But you look at the reserve team squad, and you look at the youth team squad, and there's not a single one of those youth players or reserve team players there at the club now. Yet all of those first team players are still there. And that says an awful lot about the state the club is in, the way that they were just revolving youngsters and not giving them the opportunity and shoving them out. But also how we're relying on players now that were playing five seasons ago. And again, the difficulty with Birmingham is that I picked it because it was a cup game, because we'd already played them a couple of weeks earlier and we'd absolutely hammered them 4-0. And again, that showed you Rafa prioritising, because at that particular point, it was success in the league, the league, get the points, move up, recognise where you are and what your target is, what you aim for, and then start cherry picking the games as you go through and cherry picking your squad and your players. But very much looking forward. It's something that's not happening at the minute, but like all seasons, it was the FA Cup. You'd had the draw, you'd had the win, and then you thought next game, next round, we could be on a cup run. Newcastle, so it didn't happen. we're tumbling down again, Steve. So that was my second game. And it's not that far. It's not that far away. And as you can see, there's lots of players that are still at the club.
Yep. Okay. Back to you, George.
Thanks, Steve. By the way, the telephone call was Marjorie. She's just ringing to tell us she's coming home tonight, which is a bit worrying, to say the least. But
best keep all eyes on the 306, Dad. Jesus.
But change the bed sheets as well.
The second game rather is my first experience of Birmingham City and Newcastle, and again it was at St James's Park, 24th of August, 55, 35,000 watching a 2-2 draw. And of course, at August 55, our team was nearly the cup final team from 55. Simpson, Bobby Cowell wasn't playing, but a young lad called Woolard played for a while. But he didn't last long, was moved on. Michael Schooler, Stoke O'Crow, Milburn on the right wing. Then Reg Davis at inside right. Now, Reg Davis is a little Welshman, another really clever little footballer, another good ball player, and also capable of scoring the odd goal. And in modern parlance, a good box-to-box player as well. You'd get more than 3 or 4 30-metre runs out of Reg Davis every match. And yet Shelby's paid £80,000 a week for doing his 3. Dick Keeble was centre forward, George Hanna, and then Bobby Mitchell. And the Birmingham team had their own characters as well. And I said when before we started, I mentioned that goalkeeper, Gil Merrick, who was like Clark Gable. He had a thin pencil moustache, superbly groomed hair, and he was always in a 3-piece suit, always extremely well turned out. And he looked more like a film star than a goalkeeper. But he actually, this time, he was actually the England goalkeeper. And then there was a lad called Hall, who was an England football fullback. Warhurst, Gavin, Kinsey, and Astle. They were all current internationals in the Birmingham team. So 2 well-matched teams fought out a 2-2 draw. And Vic Keeble scored a header, and Reg Davis scored a nice little shot from just outside the penalty area. The other thing that I mentioned is that their manager at the time was a lad called Arthur Turner. Now, for some reason, he was held in very high esteem by the grown-ups in my family, my father and my grandfather and my Uncle Tom. They all, for some reason, liked Arthur Turner. He had something of a reputation as being a good football man, and they really liked him. So, and he was the manager at the time. But again, a good 2-2 draw with 2 good sides and lots of people on display who were worth watching. So that was my first game in 55 against Birmingham. 55 was quite an important year for me as well, because that's the year I signed schoolboy forms for Newcastle United. Brilliant.
Great stuff. Great story. Stu?
The second game, again, the game's more of a backstory to the real story. But it was the season, I think, we'd just been promoted, 2010, 2011. Well, yeah, because I'd moved back and I was living in the Lakes at the time in Lancaster with Robbie One Punch. And I used to get up to the games every home game. I used to get up there every home game and travel, this, that, and the other. So because I was friends, as I've mentioned previously, well, I still am, I am, where the JC, I'll get tickets for the Players' Lounge. So I used to take nephews or nieces or my daughter or son, whoever, always take one of the kids. And I know Stevie Burns, he's a pretty imposing figure, but he's really,
Pugger, who runs the Black Bull for anybody out there who's watching.
Yeah, on Barrack Road. He runs the Black Bull on Barrack Road. He used to look after the players on nights out and stuff like that. But he's really, really good. He's known my daughter since she was born, and she's 23 now. So he's watched her grow up and everything else, and he's always good making sure that when the players come in, they would sign the tops for the bands or the papers, whatever they had, the team sheets, whatever they had. But this time, Doug, who's Rachel works for, my older brother, his eldest, Craig, he was now 15, so at that age to think they're becoming a man and stuff like that. But as I mentioned, Steve is a bit of an imposing figure. So we're in the bar before the game in the Black Bull, and Stevie says, right, I'm not going to tell you what he said because it will spoil the story. He's took us over. He says, right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. He says, we'll put the lad in his place. I went, oh, that sounds brilliant. If you can pull that off, that'd be brilliant. So anyway, we're getting the ground. And the one thing I remember about the whole of that season was Chick Gioni, one of my favourite players. And he was too good for us that season. You could give him the ball doesn't matter who was near him. It was very rare he lost it. He was in tandem with Kibaye. he was, to me, he was brilliant. He was something that we need now. He was like the main sweeper, but he knew just to knock it forward enough. Not like a batty type would go sideways. He would actually try and create something or give it to the creator. Anyway, I was sitting with Craig and the Heat and his son, and we're in the Elise's part where we've got the tickets for, and I was waxing lyrical about Toyota, this, that, and the other. And my phone goes, my mobile, and I've answered it, and I've went, yep. So it was Stevie Burns saying, like, okay, it's on. What we're talking about, it's on. So I'm looking, and I've went, Craig has. That's my nephew's name, so it was all part of the wind-up. And Craig's like, what Uncle Stu? And I went, he wouldn't do that. What do you mean when I went to the toilet? He hasn't, has he? Right, I'm really sorry, Steve. Yeah, no problem, mate, no problem. So put the phone down. So this, God bless him, he was like, Uncle S, what's happened? And I says, you've been caught on camera, like, swearing and sticking your fingers up and that. I said, I've got to take you to the police station after the game inside the ground. Then he's like, no. I said, I can't believe I brought you here. I cannot believe I brought you here. I says, all your cousins and everything else, they couldn't behave. He says, I really haven't. And he was, he was protesting, like, far too much. And it come to the end of the game, and he's like, am I really going to get arrested? I says, no, you won't get arrested. I says, look, I won't tell your dad. Look, but we'll have to go. You've got caught on camera. I says, I'll ring Stevie and see if he can sort it out, So we've got the players lounge, had a quick drink, and I've texted Steve, and he says, right, come up, 6th level, you know where we're going, the door with War Room written on it. So we've got it. It was all arranged with security, let me and the young up. And we've got the door, and I says, right, Craig, I says, you've got to go in there. I said, you've got to knock first, and you've got to go in. And he's, no, you knock, you go first. I went, hey, it's not me, that's been in trouble. I said, I'm really disappointed, I says, you've always been a good kid. I'm really, really disappointed with you. And he's like, I said, look, I'll stand here just at this side. You knock. I said, come on, be a man now. You're 15, you've been telling everyone like you're getting old. But he's knocked on the door. Well, the door's open, and it's Alan Shearer standing on the side of the door. And bless Big Al, like, he's just went, hello, Craig, how are you doing? Do you want to come in and have a drink with us and watch the Sky Sports and all that? And, the mouth, the jaws just dropped. He's like, he's looking. I says, you were never in trouble with a policeman. And Stevie's grabbed him in. They've had photographs and autographs and everything else. And so I've had a little bit of nibble and that, and then back downstairs, and the Heat was waiting. And I couldn't tell the Heat that's what was happening because he would have blabbed it, with excitement. So he's come back and like Craig's on his mobile, like, look at me. Now he's photo with Alan and everything, What you never told me was the Heat, So that brought it to mind. But we'll go back to the game. Just thought I'd share that story because I believe it was a good one.
Story.
Yeah. We beat them 2-1, and I said, to this day, I'll always say, check you alongside Dave McCrew. He's been the best ball-winning midfielders we've had, and that includes Barry, I think. But that's just my opinion. We've had, we could have been 3 or 4-0 up by half-time, and it ends up we get a goal later in the half with Steve. No, we had a penalty first. I remember we had a penalty first, and the Mackinslayer scored the penalty. And then Steve Taylor scored a thumping header in the Gallagher end. It was a thumping header. And we're 2-0 up, just getting to the half-time and think, well, this is going to be easy. But lo and behold, the ex-player syndrome kicks in, and Lee Boyhouse gets one back. Right on, in injury time, he gets one back. Second half was, again, just one-way traffic. Again, shot clear off the line, could have scored more. But we finished 2-1, and we're just mid-table, 11th, 10th or something like that. But I'll always remember that because, again, at the time I had, my left hand was in a cast that time. That was from another incident. But it's just young Craig. I've been winding him up on WhatsApp this week, telling them I'm going to mention his story. And he's like, I was only 9. And I thought, well, if you were born in 1996 and this was in 2011. So I sent him a message just before we come on saying, you were 15 and you're getting it, son. So there's the story for him. He's just got engaged as well at Christmas, so you'll have to explain that to his wife to me.
Classic.
Brilliant.
Mitch, on to you, mate. Your next story.
Well, it's about a game that's just flashed past on the bottom there. And the reason it sticks in my mind was just how absolutely abjectly rank that game was and how absolutely awful we were. And if ever there's a more schizophrenic club than Newcastle United, I'd love you to show it. It was in the FA Cup replay under Glenn Roeder. We had injury problems. We had makeshift back four. And the weekend before, we'd gone to Tottenham and won well. And you're thinking, okay, we've got this together. We've got a home replay against Birmingham, who were division below. I think Bruce was their manager at the time.
It was live on BBC. I remember watching it.
It was, absolutely. It was live across the world, and we managed to humiliate ourselves yet again and lose 5-1 at home to an ordinary Birmingham side who had one player with a bit of quality in Gary McSheffrey, and would just let him run the game from the 5th minute onwards, give him far too much space, and to add insult to injury like we usually do in situations like that, Stephen Taylor managed to get himself sent off as well. If he wasn't doing comedy things in front of the opposition goalkeeper at free kicks, he was getting himself sent off in bizarre series of events. And that game was just, we never even showed up. But the result as a defeat just came out of the blue. Yes, we'd been ordinary at Birmingham in the first game, and we were maybe lucky to bring them back for a replay. But then in the following game, we'd absolutely hammered Spurs away. And, makeshift back four, I think Huntington was at left back. This is the lanky centre back. And while it was a real ramshackle back four, I think Stephen Taylor was the most experienced member of that back four that night. But that shouldn't have mattered because on paper, well, as ever, the game's not played on paper, it's played on grass. But on paper, we should have turned up, and we just never turned up that night. And I think that was the start of the decline that Roeder had, because I think why he eventually went in the end was, I think, at the end of the season, we only won 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Which is ironic considering we've only won 2 in 20 this. But, we are a club who can pull a result out of nowhere, one way or the other, with absolutely no rhyme or reason. And it crosses generations of the team. And there seems to be familiar patterns. Players out with injury, lots of injuries. Unrest behind the scenes, players making noises, unrest in the boardroom, unrest on the terraces. It's the kind of thing that, as a club, we seem to go through cycles of it. And that match, that entire day was just a total write-off. It was a Wednesday. Yeah. I think I'd taken a half day off work to go meet the lads and have a pint. And what was the point of that then? Thanks for that, lads. Cheers. And it would just, if ever you could pick a game that shows just how we can turn up and be so bad out of the blue, it was that game. Because I don't think anybody saw it coming from a million miles off.
No, good one to pick. Lots of people seem to remember that.
Shows the difference in the managers as well. Roeder, a man with some honour and some style. He got out when he saw what was happening, and he gave it away. He resigned. This one now is going to hang on with his bloody fingernails until somebody chops his hand off.
Yep.
No honour, no style at all.
Sad but true, George. Sad but true. Steve, finish off on the tales of Birmingham City with you.
Hopefully the gremlins are fixed. We'll see what happens now. I know Steve Bruce watches this show regularly, and I thought just to give him a pointer for what's ahead, I thought I'd cover a game that was just 5 years ago when we're in the Championship under Rafa, and point out that the team that played that game in December 2016, 8 of the players that played in that match could have played on Saturday. We know they're still with us. The 3 that we had that didn't play were Gouffran, Diarmi, and Vernon Anita. And the 3 of the 8 that he could have could have played on Saturday. The three that didn't play were Darlow, Matt Ritchie, and Dwight Gale. So in that game, Dwight Gale scored a hat-trick, a perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot, and header. The first was, and in fact, he got the assist on the fourth goal, which was scored by Gouffran. But if you look at there's a clip of that on YouTube, and I remember the day that the first goal was a fantastic cross from Diarmi going down the right, and he put it in. It was a similar sort of header to what he scored that goal after the restart last game, just running in and a bullet header. Second goal was a sort of a cross ball by Hayden, similar position in the pitch, put it across, and there was a sort of rebound, but he was there in the 6-yard box to knock it in. That is what we need him to be doing and where he needs to be playing. And in the second half, it was a through ball by Shelby, and he laid it on to Gouffran to score. And then to finish the game off and get the fourth goal, it was a cross ball, I think, by Shelby into the box, and he just tapped it in with his left foot for the perfect hat-trick. He'd made the keeper make a couple of other saves, and it just showed that all right, this was Championship, but it was a motivated team with some of the same sort of players under Rafa, and they were all playing for each other and put on a performance. And that's the thing that shows you the difference between how Rafa got them motivated and playing for each other. The same players was the real point I wanted to make. And there we have the sort of shambles that we got on Saturday, and players like Gale, when we've had him on the last few weeks, not playing where he should be in the 6-yard box and hanging around the penalty area, waiting for half a chance where he's very likely to stick it in. So that's my second game.
Great stuff, some great memories there, and thanks for sharing your memories in the chat. Got our 3 regular features now. Starting off, I think we'll start off with the easy one tonight. I think we'll start off with the players that essentially played for both teams. And got to be honest, lads, I found this one a little bit of a struggle. Not as many as other clubs. It was quite difficult, but there's a combination of players and a manager. So start off with this guy.
Stephen Carr.
Stephen Carr, yes.
Martin Thomas.
I'm not getting these pictures again, and it's not the vodka Ryan Brew.
Martin Thomas.
No,
all right.
Martin Thomas has just come on now.
All right, must be slight delay then, Stu, at your end, possibly.
Getting stuck in the Suez Canal, Stu.
Now that one's come on. Don't know who it is though.
Is that Kevin Dillon?
Kevin Dillon, yeah.
That's a very young Kevin Dillon,
Very young, with a Birmingham shirt on.
He was a cult hero, wasn't he? Him and Ray Rancid and stuff like that.
He was the one who cost me a fortune because he never got a goal at Newcastle. He was my first goal scorer, if you remember. Every time he played for Newcastle.
He was always 20-1, wasn't he?
Of course, he made his debut then at Reading and scored on his debut for Reading. And of course, I hadn't put the bet on. So
Lee Clark.
Of course, went to Birmingham at the wrong time when the owner got put in prison, and he ended up having to sell all his best players. Not the greatest time to move there.
Obafemi
Martins.
27 today. Wish him a happy birthday.
Got the winner in the cup final as well at Birmingham for Wembley. Was it the cup final or was it a playoff final? I can't remember.
League Cup final.
2011.
He's also the oldest and the youngest player to ever play in that cup final.
Take that off.
The same game.
Anybody know this fella?
I told you.
No.
I told you watched the game.
No.
Lee Boyle, isn't it?
Bowie.
No.
Oh, Peter Ramage.
Is that not Shane Ferguson?
No,
Well done, Mitch.
Shane Ferguson.
Shane Ferguson.
Aye.
Well done, Mitch.
We tried to sign him, didn't we?
That's Lee Boyle.
Aye.
Joe Kinnear did, yeah.
Yeah, when he was already on my books.
That's right.
He was on loan, aye.
Big Jim Smith.
Smith,
Yeah,
The
James
baldy
Smith.
look.
That's it then. So that's your players. Moving on now to celebrity fans. I know the lads always enjoy this one. So, who should we go for first? We'll go for an easy one first.
Airwood.
That's the lad out of... it's the actor.
He's in top of things, isn't he? Police sort of things.
He was in The Wire. He's been in lots of things. I got his name. He's just done a documentary, hasn't he, about racism? What's his name?
I'd suggest his name's Haywood because that's the name on the shirt. But, you know.
It could be a red herring, that, Mitch.
I think it might be. Aye.
No, it's not. It's not. His Haywood, definitely.
Not Marlon Haywood, is it?
No. Sean.
Hope you're not going through the Radio Times there, George.
Just trying on yes.
Wouldn't be the first time.
the bit in the paper.
Aye, I knew you were. Right, okay. Well, that's David Harewood, lads.
David,
yeah.
The Queen.
No, not the Queen.
That's the boxing man, isn't it? Is it McCracken?
Robert McCracken.
Is it?
Well done. Famous
Wow.
Blue Nose. Getting his MBE off the Queen.
Wow.
Can you put that one back on, Steve?
No, I've deleted it.
All right, okay.
Were you in the crowd, George?
No, but it doesn't matter. There's another story attached to it.
All right, no, I deleted it. Sorry, George. I'm quite quick on these.
It's okay.
I don't know.
One of my favourite artists.
Oh, is it the Streets?
It is. Can you remember his name?
Nah, I can't remember his name, but I know that it's the lad from the Streets.
Mike
something or other.
Yeah.
Skinner.
Mike Skinner. Yeah. Well done, George.
Oh,
Chef.
Glenn Purnell.
Master Chef.
You're on fire, George.
It is. I think he's on the internet on the same thing that I get my photographs off.
Just
doing homework.
Just
my carrot.
That's my carrot. I was waiting for that one.
Just my carrot. Yeah, I think everybody was.
Programs I watch, you know.
What a great series, though.
Aye.
It must be the writer of it, is it?
It is.
Right. Nah, wouldn't have a clue.
Me and Mitch are at a disadvantage here.
I'll give you half a point for the writer. It's Stephen Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. George might get this one. He seems to be getting all the obscure ones tonight.
Oh, that's the cycling coach, isn't it? Oh God.
It is.
Nah.
Braille, not Brailsford, is it? No.
No. It's the other one. No, I can't remember the name, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Paul Manning, the British cycling coach.
That's it. Yeah.
That's Roy Wood.
Roy Wood.
It is Roy Wood.
Oh.
Quite a few boxing boxers and trainers and that who are involved with Birmingham or fans of Birmingham. This one's he's a retired boxer. I'll give you that clue.
Right.
I think he hung on his gloves. Is that a clue?
It is.
So you must have looked after him.
Strange, isn't it? Because for the second city, they've had, the second biggest city it was in the country, the football team's been rubbish, but they've had plenty of other sports people,
They have. That's Wayne Elcock, but he's retired now. And there is another boxer as well. These are, I think the one thing with these lot is they're actually genuine fans.
Yes.
The one thing I found with Birmingham, that are actually genuine fans. That's another boxer, another Brummie boxer. He's got a big love of the blues. No guesses?
He looks like
Macklin.
No.
He was in the Olympics.
He's been on Fight Night recently.
He has. Frankie Gavin.
Oh, that's the reporter. Oh, God.
Wouldn't recognise that one at all, Steve. I think you got us there.
Difficult one, that.
Is it Steve Wilkinson?
It's not Steve Wilkinson.
He's got
That's
hair.
the Birmingham Mail columnist and free radio DJ, Tom Ross.
No, I got sacked from that job.
Sorry, Steve. It looked like you.
That would be a lucky likey for Fridays.
This is the guy on the left we're looking for.
No.
Another pop star, I think.
Walking up the wrong tree there.
Right, okay.
He must be an actor or a film star, is he?
He is,
Red
yeah.
carpet.
You're getting warmer.
It certainly is getting warmer here. 31 today.
Looking at the car, I think it's over where you are, Stewie. Kind of penny there.
No.
He was in Harry Potter, if that helps.
Oh, yes.
Nope.
James Phelps.
Yeah.
Right.
Final one, easy one. If you know
is
your
that-
music.
Is that UB41?
No. Although they are Birmingham fans, George. But it's not UB40.
See, didn't it?
It is Ocean Colour Scene. But what's he called?
Oh, yes.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I've seen him twice.
I think I've seen them as well. Dear me.
It's funny, isn't it? You watch bands all the time, but
Yeah.
you know when you see them and you're not sure who they are. Keith Rolls come the closest in the chat. Trey and Sons almost there. Paul Oxley's got the right band, but hasn't got a name. Azzy says it's the lead singer from Ocean Colour Scene, which is correct.
Yes, it is. Yep.
But who is it?
I still can't remember his bloody name.
Paul Oxley, you've got it, mate. Simon Fowler.
Oh, I've seen trouble ahead. Yeah.
Simon Fowler, that's it, lads.
Ahead, man.
A whole host of celebrities, fans. So well done, Birmingham.
Big city, Steve. Big city, you know. And like I say, amazing that a club like Birmingham hasn't had the success. You know, when you look at, I mean, their trophy cabinet's even emptier than ours. You know, but for the second biggest city in the country, and with the population that it's got, there's only Villa really that are also in Birmingham. You know, it's amazing that they've never had the success.
Yeah, bless you, Mitch.
But
Okay.
the other thing, Steve, is that some of them you showed that I knew, like Glyn Purnell, the chef.
Yeah.
He really does support Birmingham. There's no ifs or buts about that.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind telling people he supports Birmingham.
A lot of the ones that I tend to find when I'm doing my research are laughable. You know, you just like it's a very, very small connection. Maybe he's been at the game as a guest, and so Rocky, Sylvester Stallone's an Everton fan because he was there when he did the film with Tony Bellew. It's one of them. But they were all genuine fans.
See, I like the chefy things on the telly, so I've seen Glyn Purnell a lot.
Yeah,
but always remember he talks about his team, which not all of them do. Not all of them do.
All right, then. I haven't forgotten. It's time to give us your team. So, Steve, you can have the honour again. Steve Hasty.
Right,
you're up there in the top next to me. So
I've stuck Ian Bennett in goal.
Ah, yes.
He's now the Middlesbrough goalkeeping coach, I think, but I'm not sure. I put Carlton Beresford on either full-back. I've put Caldwell and Edgar in the middle. I've struggled for centre-backs, to tell you the truth. But I've gone for two wide men, Terry Hibbert on the left, and I've gone for Townsend on the right. I put a central midfield partnership that played together, possibly, Butt and Boyer. And I've put Peter With up front with Andy Cole. And you know what? We've shouted enough about it. I thought for this one, I'd stick Lee Clark in as my manager.
Good stuff.
That's just ridiculous, that thing.
Okay, George.
Same goalkeeper, right back Beresford, left back Ramage, right side midfield Howard Gale, Centre back, Stephen Caldwell, then Pat Howard next to Stephen Caldwell, and then Trevor Hockey. Number 8 would be. Let's have a look. See, I've got Terry Hibbert, and then I went to centre strikers Andy Cole and Peter With, like Steve did, and then number 10, number 11 rather, was Andros Townsend, and my manager would have been Lee Clark as well.
Okay, good stuff. And to you, Stu.
Well, it was probably identical to Steve Hastie's. And there was only 2 choices of managers. One's an HR manager who manages time off, days off, and holidays and things. And the other one is Clarkey. So obviously the manager had to be Clarkey. The game I first talked about in 2004, I think Ian Bennett was on the bench for that game. So I put him in goal with Parr one side, Beresford the other. I went 3-4-3 with Caldwell as the only centre half. Then across the 4 was Townsend one wing, Hibbert the other, Boyer and Butt in the middle, and a front 3 of Andy Cole, Martins and Lovenkrands, because I thought Lovenkrands did brilliant for the tune. So I thought we should put him in.
Yeah,
and that was my team.
Very good. What about you, Mitch?
I went with Martin Thomas in goal. Full backs are Ray Ranson and John Beresford. But then I was torn about putting young Ferguson in at left back just because of that Kinnear story, but it's been told. Centre backs Peter Ramage and David Edgar, and then I put Lovenkrands on the right and Hibbert on the left, with Butt and Boyer in centre midfield, which seems to be a popular pairing. And I've gone with Peter With and Obafemi Martins up front. And again, I stuck Clarkey in as manager because I just couldn't go with the other one.
Last but by no means
Right.
least, over to you, Steve.
Yeah, some similar ones. Martin Thomas in goal, Stephen Carr on the right defence, Peter Ramage, Pat Howard in the middle. I put Shane Ferguson in just because I thought it'd be different from everybody else. I've got a sort of 3 midfield with sort of Nicky Butt and Terry Hibbert, but also Stuart Barraclough, who I don't think anybody else has picked Stuart Barraclough. And then a pretty prolific forward line, I think, of Andy Cole, Peter With, and Obafemi Martins. And again, manager, there's no question about it. I'm not going to mention his name. So Lee Clark.
Great stuff, lads. Fantastic show. Went into a little bit extra time, but well worth it tonight. Some great memories, some great stories. And Tom Dixon, you asked for, I think it was Leicester. Is that what we've agreed on, lads, for next week?
Yeah.
That's right.
I was just going to say, Steve, when we're looking at goalkeepers, how many of us always go straight away to John Burridge and then find not one of the 30 clubs that he turned down?
Default selection.
So disappointing, isn't it? 30 clubs to choose from and he's not there.
Has he been to Leicester?
I think he was at Leicester.
I think he was actually. Aye.
Yeah, the strict rule is you cannot pick him if he's just played there. He's got to have actually been at that club.
That's right.
Stuart Barraclough seems to have been in every team we've picked.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, lads, I'm back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock with Super Mac and with John Gibson. Obviously, they'll have a lot to say, I'm sure, about the debacle last weekend. And then back with the 3 amigos, of course, on Friday night at 5:30. So look forward to that. And lads, I'll see you next Wednesday for Leicester City. Take care.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna